You can see all my nice little brain emotion. Did you get the lights? I think it might be better if, I don't know, for visibility. I'm so sorry.
Sit down. Or you can sit
Thank you all for coming. I know like some people are really, really busy. So like the second year students have an exam, it sounds like. And then other people are just starting their new blocks. So Brandon's just started surgery. Joel's of course in his third year, so he has an exam next week. So tough week. But I'm glad that you guys are here anyway to enjoy the food and most importantly to hear Dr. Khagi's amazing talk. There's Munira. She's my fearless JP. She deals with
Zoom link, Sam?
Oh yes, there is a Zoom link. I always forget the Zoom. I feel so bad.
Recording in progress.
And the Zoom link has been shared to St. Joseph. So hopefully people join from our satellite campus. We are set to kind of start around 5:20, 5:30. So I'm just going to go with our portion. And then Dr. Khagi's talk hopefully will start right when things were communicated. This is our alumni mentorship night. This is in a series called the Library of Leaders. It's a series that Dr. Norbash, our dean, actually set up. Sort of an internal, distinguished repository of different leaders who come and give speeches about their journey in entrepreneurship, innovation, and creativity. I know the room may seem a little vacant, but I won't be honest that I think the numbers are actually quite great. I know most of you guys personally and the people who've come are quite innovative and creative and what people I would assume to be very entrepreneurial and who really need to listen to this talk and any talk in the Library of Leaders. I think we're most honored to have Dr. Khagi here to sort of give the first of many Library of Leaders lectures because he is, I think, the epitome of everything we seek to describe to this series, which is someone who's not only a physician by every right, compassionate, scientific, great clinician, but also somebody who's extremely translational, someone who looks at entrepreneurship as a window of opportunity for his or her patients. And so I think the Library of Leaders is like so blessed and honored to have Dr. Khagi give the first of several lectures to come and set the pace for all the speakers from here on out. This is hosted by Spark and Rulink. Amelia's probably like, why is my face up there? Amelia is like amazing. She leads our alumni efforts. She's the director of the National Board of Alumni or Alumni Relations. And it's our board where alumnus kind of lead their vision for how alumni should interact with the university. I got to participate with the group for about 2 years now, and it was one of the greatest privileges of my entire life. Also on here is Spark and Rulink. These are two very specific organizations with very specific interests for the School of Medicine that I'm also really happy are hosting Dr. Khagi because they mean so much. I will stop belaboring this slide specifically and get on to the other ones. I put this slide here to explain what the two organizations do in concert, but also to explain a little bit about the window you should view Dr. Khagi's life, I think, from what I know about him and his great accomplishments. I think this specific slide is very high yield. So does anyone know why I would put like a coin on here? Any guesses? A coin. Does anyone here know what Spark does, if you have a guess? Well, Panishri's in Spark, so maybe he'll speak.
What does Spark do?
Mm-hmm.
So basically, it's like a combination of what used to be Supervision Society and like a student committee. Basically, we do things that raise awareness surrounding like patient advocacy. So we do a lot of research in that, and then we try to help connect different students that are kind of starting out their way in the program with different research opportunities. So I guess just spreading awareness about research within the program.
Yeah, absolutely. It's sort of the unified voice for student thoughts on research, but also a way for us to interact with faculty on the deepest level, because research is a very important column of medicine, now more than ever. Does anyone know what Rulink does, Ananya?
So Ruling helps to empower students to be able to understand more about entrepreneurship and be able to start their own innovation projects with groups or individually, and gain guidance from people that are able to connect us to more people, and help us take our projects to the next level, go to pitch competitions, and get experience in medicine and business.
Yeah, absolutely. Medicine and business, I think, is probably the best way to put it. That's a great phrase. Basically, innovation, like the way Dean Norbash says, innovation, for better or for worse, requires funds. And funds often come from the commercial industrial market. And so Ruling kind of takes that and says, you want to be an innovator, which you probably are. I don't know if Grace is, she just walked in, probably is. We get you the funds you need to take that idea to the next level. Both organizations exist around this coin because I believe there are two sides of the same coin. I think research and entrepreneurship, unfortunately and maybe fortunately, have this really intertwined relationship where there's a lot of capital required to do good research, and good research only really is good medicine if there's money involved. And so because of that, we'd like to say that this slide kind of recapitulates what each does in vision and then together in concert, and what you're going to do one day as a physician. So you're already thinking about doing that for your career in the future. So that's exactly what you'll do. You'll do good research like Dr. Khagi, and then you'll put it to patients' hands through the commercial market, just like Dr. Khagi as well. We also do similar activities. So Spark and Ruling also do lectures. Why? Because when you meet an inspiring person, you become an inspiring person. That's why. It's that simple. You meet an inspiring person, you become inspiring. So what I told Dr. Khagi before he came here was, we want to have this lecture so that each one of you can become a little Dr. Khagi, and grow up to do great and wonderful things. And so he's like, this is too much. And so that's the point of some of these lectures, is that when you go to a lecture, you just assume it's just for learning. But really, I think the point of any lecture, especially at the School of Medicine, is so you look at someone and you can visualize a perspective for your own life. And I think that's one of the more important things I'll get to in the rest of these slides is, what does it really mean to have someone be a mentor in your life, even if it's just for a moment like a lecture. The second thing we do is we believe in practicum. So I don't know if you've been at UMKC long enough. Oh my gosh. So Lauren's been listening to nonsense or nothing at all. Lauren, I'm sorry.
Oh, you're fine.
Like, don't talk to me, I'm on Zoom. We're just getting to what these two organizations do, and I was explaining that at UMKC, for you guys who don't know, we like to do things in practicum. So there's this really big emphasis on simulations or trying it and seeing what it does in your life, rather than just learning about it. I think that's really important. I don't think anyone really learns from 40 to 120-minute lectures. Really, people learn when they try it and they see what it's all about. And so Spark and Ruling both have practical efforts. For example, Spark, we're trying to create these affinity groups. People can get matched to mentors, do research in real time. And in Ruling, similarly, we advanced your entrepreneurial efforts through a series of different pitch competitions so you can develop your idea and meet people in the industry. This is the student leadership. They're all like, I know, they're like models. I don't know why I'm part of this pantheon, but Zubin is the director of Ruling. He's gonna exit soon, but he's director now. Cooper is, of course, the chair of Spark, and Rishabh is the treasurer of Spark. This is a picture from Rishabh when he was in high school, because he just he's not online. Then we have our faculty mentors I want to mention, our champions. So, of course, we have our Dean Norbash, who's our faculty advisor for both Ruling and Spark. Then Dr. Nichols is our fearless and honestly the foundation of Spark itself, so she's our faculty advisor.
That's an old photo.
Well, you look younger now. I don't know if it's a Benjamin, but I'm not a factor. and of course, there's Dr. Cuthbert Simpkins, who I'm sure you guys know well at this point. Several lectures through the course of your time here. He's an amazing entrepreneur and an amazing scientist. So he's the faculty advisor for Ruling. But in all of these conversations, we have all these teams, we have students do all these things. The question is, what's really at the heart of the student success? What's really at the heart of student success? And I think I've actually considered this for some time. In my own life and in the lives of those I want to see succeed more than me, people who are younger than me, just because I've been taught to do so by people like Dr. Khagi. And I kept asking the question, how can we make sure that students succeed in perpetuity? And I realized it has to be through mentorship. I think the old rhetoric was that mentorship was optional, that you could optionally have a great mentor in your life. Otherwise, you can sort of bypass that and become successful on your own. That may have been true before, but I think now more than ever, to be successful in anything and to make impact, good impact, you need great mentors, because you need a perspective of yourself and your other people's lives to be able to really flourish and be vision seeking. That's kind of captured in this great paper by Dr. Coven at Harvard. It was published recently, I want to say in the last 2 years, 2024. And in this, she actually talks about her journey of entering neurology residency, doing an intern year, and then deciding that she wanted to do primary care. And she was like, she's like, am I deranged? Is there something wrong with me? I'm doing neurology at Mass Brigham, and now suddenly I want to do primary care. And at the time, she felt so lost, she didn't know what to do. She found a great mentor. So she went to the dean of her school, and she just talked to her feelings. He gave great advice to her, and she would become, a wonderful internist. And in this, she said she kept pontificating what it meant for someone to be an exceptional mentor, and someone who I believe Dr. Khagi, is the epitome of, is that a real mentor is someone who has more imagination about you than you have for yourself. I don't know if there's anyone in your life, when you think of that statement, maybe you're getting teary-eyed, or maybe you're like, Sam, this is like very abstract, but you should always have someone in your life, even if it's just your parents, who you feel like have a bigger and broader imagination of what you're capable of than you yourself. Otherwise, they're not really a mentor, right? They're not really a mentor. So I felt that way when I met Dr. Khagi, and I still do. Every time I meet him, he captures everything I'd like to do with my life, and then more. He's very compassionate. He does everything for his patients. I think that sort of medicine is really, really, really profound. I think Joel feels the same way, so he's going to introduce a little bit about the research we've done with Dr. Khagi, just to set the pace of what an amazing mentor he is, and then he's going to come and give a great lecture to us all.
It's very hard to follow Sam when he speaks all of that. Just a quick introduction. My name is Joel. I'm a third year here at UMKC in the program. And I was introduced to Dr. Khagi through Dr. Nichols around 2 years ago. In UMKC, if you want to get involved with research, you often go to Dr. Nichols first. And she looks at your interests, and she was like, hey, I want to introduce you to Dr. Khagi. In the last 2 years, I cannot be more appreciative of everything that Dr. Khagi has done for me. In our initial work, he really emphasized the importance of academic writing and scientific writing, and he's talked about that in some of the different events that he's been at today. And I think what's interesting is when I just first started out, our initial drafts, he was like, hey, Joel, this is not it. Go back to the drawing board. And I am so appreciative of his feedback and kind of the way that he kind of walked me through the initial steps, because now I think I'm so much of just so much better of a researcher, of a student, and in so many aspects because of it. Additionally, I've learned a lot from Sam in the last year, and I think that connection was Dr. Khagi being like, hey, I'm working with another student, maybe you can learn something from him, and then I have continued to learn so much from Sam as well. In particular, just small moments with Dr. Khagi that I remember is just kind of in the HSF series, me ranting to him. Again, Dr. Khagi is a UMKC alumnus, so he is familiar with how our program works and all that sort of stuff. So I would, in a meeting, I'd just be ranting to him about something or another, and he would remind me to just remember things in the bigger picture. He'd be like, Joel, you're working hard. School is school. These details are these details, but remember what you are here for. Remember what you are doing as a medical student, why you are here and why you're doing what you're doing. Remember the bigger picture, and remember what you are hoping for yourself to become. And I'm sure he'll talk about that later today, but I could not have received any better advice in that moment, because again, Dr. Khagi is an example. He's just the prototype kind of what we all should aspire to become, whether entrepreneurial, clinical, or through research. I truly can keep on saying important moments and just amazing things about him, but I'd like to briefly talk about our research together and then give the floor to Dr. Khagi, because that's what we're here for, to hear him speak. Dr. Khagi has been very open just about any kind of research endeavors I've kind of thrown on his plate, and this poster is something that I was able to present a few weeks ago at the annual Psychosocial Oncology Society annual meeting in New Orleans. I have interests in psych and oncology, so I wanted kind of his guidance on a suicide risk among cancer patients, a systematic review and meta-analysis that he kind of helped me go through. In short, our findings were just, again, conducted a systematic review, conducted a meta-analysis to find kind of the standardized mortality ratios, and we found that esophageal cancer had the highest kind of SMR, the hazard ratios, which means that people with esophageal cancer are often kind of leading to kind of suicide the most. Then comes lung, then comes head and neck, which again may seem like initially like, okay, it makes sense, but really kind of looking into the different reasons why, looking at the risk factors of male sex, older age, unmarried status. And again, the reason kind of these cancers are higher in the mortality ratio is, again, because of the symptoms, because of the impact on quality of life. And another big thing that our study looked at was that often this elevated suicide risk is in that 3 to 6 month time. And then lastly, kind of what key variables like aren't being included in all these studies that we looked at. And there were 100 studies that we did analyze. The second project that I'd love to talk about is it's a project titled Presenting and Therapy-Related Psychiatric Manifestations of Metastatic and Primary Brain Tumors. This project, Sam had the opportunity to present at the Society of Neuro-Oncology annual meeting in Hawaii last year, where he met Dr. Khagi in that picture from earlier. But Dr. Hagi's guidance in this project, kind of just conducting the systematic review and determining kind of that like looking at different systematic reviews, seeing that astrocytomas and meningiomas were the predominant tumor types linked with psychiatric presentations, and there was no significant association between demographic and histopathological features. Just kind of looking at these findings, and again, it's so crucial for us to understand current research as we move forward in future research, to just keep on building upon the foundation of science and to keep on improving with different things. I will kind of keep my introduction short here because we all do want to listen to Dr. Khagi, and I'll give it off to Sam to introduce.
It's like musical chairs, we just keep getting up and down. Like we just had the lecture slides. Oh. To introduce Dr. Khagi more formally, he graduated as an alumnus. Oh, yes, of course.
And then if you hide the floating controls more,
Of course.
that's gonna help. And the floating controls. Keep going down, down.
Oh, here we go.
Right there.
Yes. And
You just run it,
from the side.
it's the bottom right. Yeah, run the slideshow, there.
He graduated from our university in '09, where he did his residency at Dartmouth. There, he decided he found a profound connection with hematology oncology, and so he did his subsequent fellowship at Tufts. There, he was really dived into research, saw what was the drastic difference between some cancers and, of course, other cancers of the brain. And so he said, I need more training. And so he did more training at Duke for his neuro-oncology fellowship, which was, and still is, kind of a very special endeavor. It's a very special endeavor for a medicinist to become a neuro-oncologist. There he thrived in Duke's academic environment, did multiple clinical trials then and even now in GBM care, and as such has become precociously the endowed chair of the neuro-oncology program at Hoag Family Medical Center. It's like an honor to have him here, him walking around and giving this talk. And the talk early at the Lunch and Learn was like hearing the talk of someone who's going to win a Nobel. So we're really, really thankful to have you here, and the seat is all yours.
Mail. Very kind introduction, thank you. So yeah, I'm back at UMKC. Last time I was here was 10 years ago. Not actually in the building. I think I was actually interviewing for a job at St. Luke's when I finished my training. And you know, obviously didn't take the job. and I'll actually go into why, because I think that's an important sort of conversation that we're having today about mentorship and you know, why I decided to take less than half the salary. You know, when it could have been a lot easier financially and certainly paid off my student loans a lot faster. But I'm very, very passionate about my own education, hence why I just kind of continue to stay in school in a way. Also with the MBA, as you can see, I continue to educate myself. I think that's very important, and we'll go into that. But UMKC was a very, very special time for me. It was special in the way that you know, it's also extremely difficult. But it formed a lot of the foundation that allowed me to continue to build. I left the Midwest because I wanted to continue my education in a place that I had no experience with, and people I've known nothing about, and an environment that was very much unlike a suburban, urban location that I'm used to. So, you know, UMKC never pushed me one way or the other, and I really appreciate that because they really, I think a lot of the people that I worked with here and studied under gave me the latitude that I needed to make these kinds of decisions. They are very supportive of my decisions, and here I am today. So you know, when Sam asked me to give this talk, you know, I asked him, like, what do you guys want to hear about? Like, what do you want to learn? And he was like, well, just tell us about your life. What did you do? How did you get from point A to point B to point C? And tell us about what does entrepreneurialism mean to you, and how did mentoring kind of fit into that? So I did my best with this talk. Hopefully you guys enjoy it, because a lot of it is, yeah, it's about my journey, but I think this can be really applied to all of you in some way or another. Maybe you'll see yourself in it. And maybe perhaps this could be a framework for what is possible, right? So my disclosures, I always do this slide because I do a lot of talks, but I also help a lot of companies. I have no qualms with helping industry, especially if they need my expertise in developing their technology. Anytime I help an industry partner, you know, there's a bar that needs to be met, and that bar is like, are you doing something good for my patients? Is there potential benefit with my patients, and is this novel, right? I don't like working with people who have other competitors that, you know, just try to get a little slice of the pie. I work with companies that are trying to make a big difference. So I think all these companies are striving for that, and I also have my own companies as well. So topics that we're going to discuss. So just my journey, the origin story of the immigrant kid, you know, coming from the Soviet Union, no English, no money, Brooklyn. I mean, like, very, very old school immigrant. I mean, you might as well put me in like in 1920s, like, movie, you know, the kid, you know, with like the raggedy clothes and like the tenements in New York. You know, it wasn't like that. I had toys, but I didn't, and I had no concept of money, which, you know, I know my parents struggled to get me to where I am today, but and I'm very grateful to them for that. But it was, you know, it was this, you know, it was I didn't have the advantages that my kids have, and I actually, which is interesting because I look at my daughters and I'm like, you will never know this. You will never have to worry about learning another language, you know, just to survive. You'll never have to worry about, you know, money because your dad's a doctor and your mom's a lawyer. You know, we will give you everything to succeed, right? So, and then they just don't listen to us, which is infuriating, but that's okay. So how did I pick my path? And a lot of that really came down to growth opportunities, and personal development, knowing that, like, I still had a lot to learn. Having that humility and understanding the importance of continued mentorship as you move through your professional life, especially within academia. And kind of what it boiled down to at the end of my tenure at the University of North Carolina, which was my first job, my first real job. Actually, I take that back. My first real job was making popcorn at AMC when I was 16. That was my first real job. I got a paycheck for that, it was amazing, and I got free movie tickets. But I came home all sticky and smelling like popcorn. This was a different job. So, but with this job at UNC, I learned about what innovation really means. There are multiple forms of innovation as a physician. You can think about clinical innovation, scientific innovation, programmatic innovation if you're building a program, and philanthropic innovation, which people don't really think about. Like, how do you engage with a grateful patient base that develops over years to then spur innovation within your program and growth within your program? It is a very, very powerful tool if you know how to use it. It really creates a lot of, I wouldn't say like independence, to allow you to do what you want to do and not necessarily be beholden to federal grant money, which in this day and age is a little bit tough to get. So we'll talk about my MBA journey really briefly. We're going to talk about how I became a biotech entrepreneur, with the startup that we have, mentoring and sort of its role in inspiring others, and of course, we'll touch on what UMKC can do for that. The formatting is really off here, but that's okay. So we were on one of those last flights of Pan Am Airlines. I don't know if you guys know Pan Am, old airline, back in the 1980s. I think that 1989, one of the last flights to leave like Rome, Italy. We were immigrating through Europe at the time. Landed in JFK, and we were fresh off the boat. Immigrants, and that's us at our rental house in Brooklyn. It's like our entire family, including grandparents. And then here I am now. I work in Newport Beach. There's palm trees everywhere, and there's yachts that pull up to my hospital. So, and I'm an endowed chair and medical director of neuro-oncology. So I came a long way. I have a lot of people to thank, and I wouldn't be here without the support of my family, the people that love me, and the mentors that I established along the way. So, and of course, UMKC. So my journey, in brief, just as a timeline, where I started, how I got to where I am today, lots of education, a lot of struggle, but also recognizing in you that you have me as somebody that is interested in medicine. I have a long way to go. I need to keep training. I need to keep learning to do the best that I can for my patients. It's really humility that drives your passion for learning, knowing that you don't know enough. In this day and age, there's a lot of people that think they know enough. It's not true, and you can actually pick those people out pretty quickly. The people who are, I think, some of the smartest people I ever worked with continue to learn. Oh, Parkway North. I'm from St. Louis. That's where I went, just in case anybody had any questions about where I went to high school. This is a UMKC talk. Yeah. So, yeah. Anyway, so I left the Midwest, and I'm really happy that I did. I wanted something completely different. When I went and interviewed at Dartmouth, it was gorgeous. The facilities were gorgeous. It was among these trees and mountains, an environment I've really never been exposed to before, but I immediately fell in love with it. It was snowing. It was like I was staying at a hotel in Hanover, and it's just this tiny little town, and I just walked outside, went to this pub across the street. It was so cool. I wanted this. And I was like, I feel like I could be really successful in this sort of like little tiny environment that is affiliated with this Ivy League college. And that, I also knew, would provide me with opportunities to engage with researchers, scientists, and very hardcore academics at a very high level. This is also an NCI cancer designated center, which is a very, very important designation. And I know what, as far as the research goes, their research was very, very high level. They were getting R01s consistently. They were doing, big population research, which at that time I was very interested in obtaining an MPH. And Dartmouth has one of the best MPH programs. They were part of the authors. Well, it's actually, they are the authors of the Dartmouth Atlas, which was used for the Affordable Care Act as data for implementation back in the late 2000s. So I gained a lot of experience at Dartmouth. I fell in love with oncology because I had great mentors. Went down to Tufts and worked with this guy named Brent Cochran. He is actually one of the discoverers of the JAK-STAT pathway. And he was just a phenomenal mentor. He had all the bona fides of MIT, Harvard behind his name, and he was doing amazing work in his lab in glioma stem cell biology, which I had the privilege of being a part of. And I did a lot of drug screening of glioma stem cells against about 500 different agents. Found that some agents are more active in normoxia and hypoxia, which actually we don't talk a lot about enough in terms of the drug development pathway. Like, I've talked to people about this, and they're like, they don't really test certain small molecules in hypoxia and normoxia, especially as it relates to brain tumors, because that's an important brain tumor niche, the hypoxic niche. But anyway, I got a lot of experience. I also realized how woefully unprepared I am to take care of brain tumor patients as a fellow taking care of brain tumor patients. And I realized that by sort of being put in my place by my neurology colleagues, specifically a neuro-oncologist who's a neurology-trained neuro-oncologist. That is the most common pathway for neuro-oncology. So most neuro-oncologists in the United States, 95% are neurology trained. So it's a very different pathway. And they have a different skill set that I didn't really fully, I didn't do well. I couldn't really evaluate an MRI on my own. I didn't really do a good neuro exam. So I felt like I need more training. I need more experience in this field. So I decided to go to Duke. And Duke is a wonderful place. It's on the main campus of the undergrad and graduate campus, like the medical center. They're right near one another. You have access to absolutely brilliant people doing amazing work. And I developed a very, very strong network with a lot of the people that are either still there or have gone off to other places to lead cancer centers, become deans, things like that. So this helped me make these relationships at a place like this, because the people there go off and do big things, right? More, I think anybody from anywhere can go off and do big things. There are just some places that kind of make a lot more of those people. So it was good to get those connections, get that network underneath my belt, get the Duke name. Name helps. This is important to understand when you're looked at as, especially within academia, more so in academia than anything else, but your pedigree actually matters. It's just on paper. It just gets your foot through the door. You could be a total idiot and say the wrong things, but at least you got through the door, and this stuff kind of helps when you have these sort of names on your CV. It's sort of the unspoken truth sometimes in what we do. Got a ton of experience, and felt like I was ready to get my real job. And I did. I went down 8 miles down the road to UNC, to the chagrin of Duke. And UNC and Duke, the two things they do that they really compete on, basketball and brain tumors. All right, that's what they do. And UNC, when I got there, they had 20 brain tumor patients that were left from a previous neuro-oncologist that had left years prior. And they said, build us a program. Well, obviously I was interviewing, they told me this ahead of time. So I knew what I was getting myself into somewhat. And I was like, yeah, I could do this. This is cool. I like the challenge. I'm going to be the youngest program director in the country. Okay, fine, no big deal. But I'm sure there's going to be people I can ask for help. I've got my network of people that I've developed over time through my training. I'll be fine. So I was not fine. My first year, it was a struggle, and it's not just understanding that like I had the clinical background to treat these patients very well, very effectively, but I had no idea how to grow a program, how to be a leader in the field, and how to build a network on top of my network that I had from my training, but how to find people and stakeholders in your program that are very, very invested in your success. That is a very, very different type of skill set that I had to develop. So I had to discover sort of this entrepreneur, and I didn't understand really I was being an entrepreneur at the time. This is sort of like, as I look back, 20/20 hindsight, that like, yeah, I was kind of flying by the seat of my pants, being an entrepreneur, just kind of doing things. And like I said, the things that helped me compete was finding the right partners, finding those stakeholders. And you can call them mentors, but other people are not so much mentory, but rather just people that like want you to succeed because they're also going to succeed along with you. So it's a very sort of symbiotic sort of relationship. You need those people in your corner. How do you develop a clinical trial portfolio that's both complementary and competitive? Clinical trials and what I do are really, really important. There's a huge unmet need in brain cancer. We do not have adequate therapeutics. So when you build a program, you cannot just hang up your shingle okay, like you do in private practice, and just do your thing, right? Just see patients day in and day out. Because what we do in brain tumor patients day in and day out has not moved the needle forward. The outcomes are still terrible. And I cannot do what I do if I didn't have good science and research to offer my patients. So I had to develop this whole portfolio of studies to compete with Duke, which had a great portfolio of studies. And I also developed a very grassroots strategy. I started with the patients. I focused on the people I was taking care of, and I focused on North Carolina. Duke, I mean, they care about North Carolina. Don't get me wrong. They're not like heartless for North Carolina patients. But the whole world was coming to Duke because they had the polio virus study. They made this big deal about it in 60 Minutes back in like 2015. It was a big deal. And once the whole world heard about it, everyone like across the United States was coming. It's like 25% of all patients diagnosed in the United States with a glioblastoma were coming to Duke for a consultation. They had plenty of patients. They didn't care about North Carolina. And I knew that because I was at Duke. So what I said, was basically said, like, you know what? If I try to compete with Duke on the same level, I'm going to fail. It's not going to work. I can't have that kind of same strategy that they have. So I have to create my own strategy. So instead, let me focus locally. Let me focus on small markets. Let me build relationships with a referral base in small towns like Sanford or in Wilmington or in Asheville, and go there personally and make those relationships. Because the Duke people that are neuro-oncologists, they're never out. They don't build business. They don't need to build business. Business comes to them, right? I knew what I needed to do, and I needed to build business very much on a grassroots kind of level. And then also use something called strategic philanthropy, which I'll kind of get into in a little bit. These were my mentors. Matt Ewan, the guy who hired me, he's a neurosurgeon. He's the chief clinical officer right now at UNC, and it was at the time the chair of neurosurgery. Phenomenal guy. We would have check-in meetings about once a month, every 6 weeks or so, just to make sure, ask me, how are you doing? How are things going? What can I do for you? The epitome of mentorship in this guy. And I think it's because he was a dad, he had 3 kids, and he was also mentoring, obviously he's mentored like his residents throughout the years. He knew how to do this. And he also applied this to me, even though I'm not a neurosurgeon. Gary Anders, not a neuro-oncologist, he's a medical oncologist at UNC at the time, but now is at Duke, was incredibly helpful in helping me as a junior attending navigate UNC. And then Sean Hinchin, actually one of the biggest reasons I went to UNC was to work with this guy. He's a scientist. The stuff that he was doing and all these papers I was on with him, we published in some big name journals. And like, I felt like this guy, like this is the same rationale I used to working with companies. This guy was trying to make a difference. He was trying to move that ball forward. And he just inspired me to come to UNC, take a big salary cut, and work with him because I knew that the things I was going to learn in his lab, there's no way I was going to learn anywhere else. And I also, because I understood how to speak the language because I worked in the lab at Tufts. I felt like, I can collaborate with him and actually help him make things better because I can translate the work that he's doing into the clinic, which he has no experience with, right? He can't take care of human beings. That's my job. But I can provide him with the insight to develop the models that he has to develop to then more effectively test his technology and then make it more translatable into humans. So with a complementary competitive sort of take on things, these were my studies. I do not expect you guys to know any of this. That's okay, but we had the Duke side here, and I tried to mirror it, okay, through various collaborations with consortia groups, with companies, with my own studies that I wrote, like that first one, the B7H3, that's a CAR T-cell study that I wrote at UNC to compete against the EGFR study with Duke. With the oncolytic virus study, this is a funny story, I'll make it very quick, but basically I just wrote them a random email, like the company. And I said, you guys are doing great work. I'm at UNC, we're just starting out, we're a young program. I would love to get your technology to UNC, and I'd love to work with you guys. And most of the time, I get totally ignored, which is fine. That's fine. That's okay. That happens. When you're an entrepreneur, people are gonna ignore you. They're gonna dismiss you. They don't like you. But they wrote me back, and the reason why, and I found this out later, the reason why they liked me is because one of their founders or one of the top people there was a UNC alum. And they were like, hell yeah, you're competing against Duke, absolutely. Totally leveraged it. And I was like, absolutely, this is why I want you guys here. They got polio, I want your adenovirus study. Great. So I want, like, so it worked out great. You just have to know your audience, how to approach them, and sometimes you just kind of get a little bit lucky. That's entrepreneurialism. This is the CAR T-cell manufacturing at UNC. It's pretty awesome tech. It's a hard-hitting program. I was really glad I got this experience. I'm not going to go into this, but basically this is how you make CAR T-cells. You get some blood out of patients, you isolate the lymphocytes, you genetically modify the lymphocytes with viral vectors that are carrying a plasmid that will then be expressed by these lymphocytes. That is the CAR, the C-A-R, chimeric antigen receptor. You take them to the gym, they get stronger, they grow up, you expand them, you store them until you need them, and then you infuse them when you need them. And this technology is making waves, of course, in things like leukemia, lymphoma, solid tumors. Still really, really hard to get this to work, but I think we're getting better. This is the adenovirus study. This was published in Nature, and I was one of the authors of it. Again, through my UNC connection, I got onto the study. I got my name in Nature, which is a big deal, especially for an early investigator. And it did show an improvement. The baseline median overall survival for recurrent GBM, 6 months. This was 12 months, the median. So that's good. Unfortunately, the company ran out of money. So that happens. This is me in the operating room, taking pictures, not doing anything remotely related to surgery. I do not cut people. But they were putting in this amazing catheter, which was a ceramic catheter, directly into the tumor to infuse the virus. And the virus has to be infused through this circulation method, something called convection enhanced delivery, where it circulates through the tubing. So it's like 1 ml of virus will circulate over about 1 hour through the tubing to get into this tumor so it doesn't like splash back and can diffuse out more readily. It's very cool technology. This is my patient who had the virus. You can see that there's, in the contrast enhanced imaging at the top, T1, right? You got it. T1 sequences. You can see that there's regression of the enhancement up to April 21st, 2019, and then you see recurrence. So obviously, we still don't know how to treat these tumors, but this is an amazing proof of concept that viruses plus other immunotherapy like Keytruda can potentially improve survival in this patient population. But we definitely need to do better. This is not adequate by any means. I'll skip this one. This is just another study that I opened up. It was really exciting. This was my network. This was my grassroots network. I went everywhere. I just brought lunch. I sat down. I had UNC swag, pens, the whole thing. I was like a pharma rep, and I would follow up. And that's how you build business. All right. As a clinician, you are not taught how to do this. I just observed this in pharma reps, and I was like, they got to be doing this for a reason, because in business, they don't do this unless they're getting some sort of ROI on that thing. So clearly, if they bring gifts, they're going to be, and it's like a nice thing. People like free stuff. So I kind of did the same thing, and I was getting calls from all of these sites to get their patients into me for brain tumor care. All right, so that's how I did it effectively. Communication, I'm going to skip this, but it's just, this is basic information. As an entrepreneur in medicine, okay, if you're trying to grow a practice, this is just my UNC experience, you got to follow up. You don't want to steal patients. You got to keep them informed of what you're doing. Like, you got to treat these people like they are, like they are important, because they are important for your overall survival as a practice. Because they don't have to refer to me. They've got other options. I'll skip the slide about building relationships, obviously very important. Strategic philanthropy, extremely important. Raising money for what you are doing and your efforts is key. This is a proposal that I wrote to the Weatherspoon family, which are a big deal in North Carolina. They're also UNC alumni, the whole family. And they're very keen about supporting cancer, specifically brain tumors. One of their kids unfortunately passed away of it. And they had this like $10 million gift that they wanted to give. I did not get to 10 million. I only got to 4 million. But I had to write this whole proposal. The chancellor of the university took it down and hand delivered it to this family, and basically highlighted what we're doing, our focus, these 4 pillars that I had: clinical care, patient support, research and innovation, and education. I mean, it obviously resonates, and they did support me, and it was great. And it was really my first time like building a case for getting this much money. So that was great. That was a great experience, and also it gave me a very strong view of like what philanthropy can do. It accelerates everything you want to do. It doesn't tether you to grants and hopes and dreams of getting something and advancing your research. These are people that believe in you, like families and people that have been affected by the disease that you are passionate about and want to improve care for. They see that in you and they trust you. So it's really built on trust. It's not, I mean, this is obviously a proposal that you have to go in with timelines and a little bit of data, but it's by no means the level of scrutiny of an R01. Okay, so philanthropy, I think, is highly underrated, and I think a lot of clinicians really miss opportunities because they don't capitalize on it, especially when they don't hear people say, I'm really grateful. You can really capitalize on that. Oh, also, put yourself out there. I put myself out there. Hence, I have less hair than I used to. I shaved my head about a couple weeks ago because I did this again. The picture in the middle right here was 2018, where I shaved my head for this 5K event that we partnered with a national foundation to do this, to raise money for brain tumor research. It's called Head for the Cure. They're based in Kansas City, actually. Wonderful people. And I put on this device called Optune, which we use to treat brain cancer with. And I ran the 5K with the backpack, the whole thing. It wasn't on, it was a dummy device, so it wasn't like, emitting an electric field into my head, which is what my patients get when they're treating their disease. So, but it created this bond, and also I remain the only neuro-oncologist to have ever done this, to have actually put this thing on my head. I think this engendered a lot of trust in my patients and to me as a clinician, that I'm willing to put myself in their shoes to understand their experiences. That goes a long way in patients and families. So I did it again, and this time I wasn't alone, which is great because I had my surgeon do it, my NP did it. She's awesome. She's right there, like sleeve tattoo. She's freaking cool. We did this as a team to show our patients that we're all in it together for you guys. And then also, I usually don't say no for putting myself out there on a stage to talk about the work that I do. Don't keep yourself cloistered off in your labs or in your clinics thinking that people are going to notice you. They won't. And that's not because they don't want to. It's because you're not putting yourself out there. So I learned that. This was kind of like a TEDx style talk, and these are two neurosurgeons. He's another surgeon, actually 3 neurosurgeons, and I'm the only neuro-oncologist. And we're just talking about brain tumors, and I'm giving this perspective on like how to treat brain tumors with immunotherapy. So put yourself out there. And this was an Instagram thing that I did, or I don't know, some sort of thing that I did for May Brain Tumor Awareness Month. Anyway, after 5 years at UNC, I quickly figured out how I need to be structuring my career. This was an impactful 5 years, and I learned a lot. I raised money, I wrote protocols, I went from 20 patients to over 500. I had a multidisciplinary clinic, like with embedded neuropsych, social work, nurse navigation, clinical trial research associates, working with radiation oncology and neurosurgery hand in hand. I essentially made UNC neuro-oncology a thing. And they're still a thing. They're not as exciting, unfortunately. And every time I see them, I'm like, come on, guys, you can do better. You can do better. You can open up more studies. You can really get out there, but that's okay. Everyone's got their own style. And like I said, there are many forms of innovation, and I learned at UNC what they were: clinical, scientific, programmatic, and how to be innovative when it comes to philanthropy. So I got itchy, all right? I got the itch. I was like, okay, I got to do something else with my career. And that pushed me towards Dartmouth because it was much more administrative. But I also started asking myself, do I need more education? I tend to ask myself that. What are my blind spots? What do I need to know? How can I be better? So I juggled this, thing like an MPH, MHA, which is a Master's of Healthcare Administration, or an MBA. And the way I thought about it was actually encapsulated in this nice AI image that I found. Because, you have to ask yourself, like, what are you actually passionate about? What do you enjoy? What do you like doing? With the MPH, it's a lot of biostats, epidemiology, and policy. I'm not that excited about that. All right? MHA, you're in the hospital, you're an administrator, you're kind of, counting the money coming in and talking about quality and safety, which is important. Quality and safety is important. Actually, I'm on a quality committee at my cancer center. So I do think it's important, but it's just, I don't know, it wasn't really, floating my boat. An MBA was like strategy, leadership, vision, understanding the finances, but not necessarily being too engaged in that. I was like, okay, I think I could do the MBA. And there are healthcare MBAs out there too. So, I like building, and what it came down to, it was about creation, about generating new ideas and ways of doing things. And I think the MBA was what really resonated with me. So, it fit the mark. So I went and got my MBA. There are different ways of getting business education. You don't have to get an MBA. I'm not necessarily selling you guys an MBA. In fact, you may not need it. You can learn a lot about business by reading, engaging, and these are actually my books. These are books that I have on my bookshelf right now, actually near my bed. And I got to say, this can only take you so far. The experience of sitting in a lecture and taking notes and really doing the problems for me was really important. So book smarts are important to get that experience, but I feel like classroom smarts are also, I think for me, was more important. Street smarts, I call it street smarts mainly, it's just experience. It's just kind of getting your butt handed to you, kind of being put in your place, really learning through, just kind of sounding stupid on occasion, people telling you sound stupid. That's street smarts, right? Eventually you get good at being in these kinds of uncomfortable situations. But so I went to a business school, and this was all online. I did not have time to go to like a physical building. I did everything online. You could do things online, obviously. The pandemic, I think, just had started. I think I took my first class pre-pandemic, and then everything obviously went online after that. This is a great school. This is one of the pioneers in online business education. It's very, very highly rated. And a lot of doctors, like 30 to 40% of doctors, my class was made up of 30 to 40% of doctors, which is pretty amazing for a business school. But it was online, and there's some drawbacks to that. The one good thing about this program is that it was cheap. It was $45,000, and I already had a lot of debt. And I was like, I don't want to take on more debt. Like the Duke program was like $120,000. Like you go to University of Chicago, Penn, Carnegie Mellon. These are big name programs, and it's like $200,000. Like, I don't want to do this. I already have a ton of debt. For an executive MBA, nothing wrong with executive MBA. I didn't want the whole executive thing in front of the MBA. I actually wanted the full MBA. Executive MBAs are actually very popular with doctors because they're quicker, they're shorter. They kind of tell you what you need to know and then get you out. So it's kind of a conveyor belt. I wanted the full experience, so I actually took like accounting, which was so painful. It was so hard. And I was like, it was like 2 a.m. I'm like trying to focus. Like I just got done with like putting my kids to bed, and I'm like doing this like spreadsheet to like amortize depreciation. It was like killing me. But I did it, and I passed it, and thank God. But there were other classes that I took, like real estate, which actually has helped me actually expand my personal real estate portfolio and understand how to engage with real estate and, single-family homes, multifamily homes, things like that, which has helped, obviously, with our finances. So what matters? I asked myself, like timing, the money, the value, the prestige. So you have to ask yourself these questions. When do you do it? I did mine 4 years into my first job, okay, when I got my itch. Is the investment worth it? What's the ROI? Yes. I paid $45,000 for this program. My salary has doubled every 2 to 3 years. I make a lot of money. Part of the reason is people think I'm good at business. With my MBA behind my name. Again, gets my foot through the door. I am very entrepreneurial. I do add a lot of value to, as you can see with UNC. At Hogue, I'm doing the same thing as I did at UNC, being very successful. And that's why people will reward you for that. But again, it really sets you up both from a like it legitimizes you in a way, which helps, but it also sort of gives you that skill set to think strategically, and really enhance my strategic thinking. Advancement, yes, I've been in multiple roles. I founded a company, and I have a real estate portfolio, and that came from the classes that I took at this school. The rankings, alumni network connections, not so much. It was an online program at a state school. No, nothing against state schools. I came from here, state school. So, but it was an online program. You can't interact with colleagues like I can with you guys, to build relationships and potentially, garner a network and opportunities. I'm sure it's all possible, but for a physician where I'm working full time, I have a family, and I'm doing this at night where I'm absolutely exhausted. I'm not gonna go to like a virtual coffee hour with these people. This thing's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. You go to Harvard, HBS, Penn, Booth, Northwestern, UCLA, you do it in person, you're gonna build yourself a very nice network, all right? And that network is gonna, help you be very successful. But it depends what your goals are. If you wanna go into venture capital, private equity, or like, go into, really just leave medicine altogether, to be honest with you, do that. Go to those places because it will allow you to advance your career in that way. I never wanted to leave medicine. I wanted things to be an adjunct to medicine, nothing to ever replace, taking care of patients. That's very, very important to me. Okay, so I started a company. The things that the things that I learned along the way as I was doing my MBA and when I got approached by a colleague to start a company is that you need to meet certain requirements. Like, you need to understand this blue ocean strategy. Blue ocean means that this is an underdeveloped area, right? There's tons of unmet need, and there's not a lot of competition, right? So you got a way to come into this market and not have significant, startup costs or significant cost of entry. All right, so your ability to potentially improve whatever you're trying to prove and generate value is much, much higher. And it's easier to be seen in that kind of environment as opposed to a very crowded field. The crowded field, as opposed to blue ocean strategy, it's red ocean, blue and red. I don't know, but the blue ocean strategy was definitely what I was looking for, because in a way I did this unapparently. It just something I was doing all along. Like, I went into neuro-oncology because I saw there was an unmet need. So I did this sort of naturally within my field. Become an expert. I spent 10 years becoming an expert, post-training, building research experience, building a network across multiple academic sites, Ivy League connections, the whole thing, Boston connections, Duke connections. I've leveraged, I gotta say, I've leveraged pretty much everything to kind of get to where I am today. And by leveraged, I mean not used. It's not using people. Trust me, they're using me just as much as I'm using them. It's about like collaboration, and it's a lot of fun. Like, when you talk to people about their ideas and I get to talk about my ideas with them, it's awesome. Like, it's just a lot of fun. And yeah, maybe we start a company out of it. Who knows? At the bare minimum, we reconnect over a cup of coffee. It's fun. You have to learn about the market. You have to understand also that this is a business. And the way I kind of tipped my toe in that before I started my biotech company is I started a consulting company to work with biotechs, to be kind of that fly on the wall, to be at those meetings, to sit in there, listen to them talk about, like, raising capital and, doing the IND enabling studies and blah, 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 and timelines and FDA meetings and things like that. Like, I didn't have much to add to that. I obviously was there to add to the clinical expertise and translatability of their technology into humans. But I still, through those interactions, through those engagements, I was able to learn a lot. So put yourself in the room with the people that you want to learn from. Even though you have nothing to say, all right, you don't really fully understand what they're saying, be in the same room, okay? That's how you become successful. Market yourself. I put myself out there on, like, LinkedIn. I would talk about my interests and my passions in the field of neuro-oncology and biotech. I wasn't shy to talk about my accomplishments. You shouldn't be either, because otherwise people will never know. And if your intent is to be known for what you do in order to continue to grow as a clinician, as a researcher, as an entrepreneur, you have to put yourself out there. And then leverage your network. Always talk to the people that are doing similar things and see how you can help one another, okay? And you have to know that as a clinician, your value, you're actually extremely valuable. Scientists, entrepreneurs, business people don't really fully understand how to treat a human being. They don't actually, not at all. So being able to provide them with that kind of insight is extremely valuable to them, and they will pay for that knowledge. So we went into GBM, huge unmet need. These are my options for treatment, very little at the moment, so we need to improve on that. So this is my company. This unmet need we're trying to address with hydrogels, which are a very broad term for these gels and patches. You can form them into many different things. Ours is going to be a Fruit Loop. I don't know if you guys know what Fruit Loops are, but basically, oh, sorry, not a Fruit Loop, Fruit Roll-Up. I keep mess that up all the time. Fruit Roll-Up. Basically a way to kind of unspool your hydrogel, cut it in the size that you want, and then basically introduce it into the tumor cavity that you've made post-operatively. These are great for drug loading. You can actually put many different drugs in them, and they can interlink to allow drug elution and delivery into that space over time. You can actually, it can be very predictable. So we decided to go, wait, where are we? Oh yeah, okay, so this is where we are right now. This is research and development. We raised $750,000 from some foreign investors. So we're working off of that right now, and we're currently developing the hydrogel models along with the drugs being loaded into them. So we've decided on 2 drugs. One is a papaya derivative as an anti-fibrotic agent to help sort of release the ECM and the fibrosis that happens post-operatively to allow for better drug delivery. And the other drug is actually febendazole, which is a anti-parasitic, but it also has anti-cancer properties, very interestingly. We did this study here where we showed that there is synergy at this particular dose of both drugs at that darker green area, where both drugs actually work together against multiple cell lines. Yeah, that's what I want to say in the slide. And this is sort of the matrix structure of what the hydrogel might look like. And then we're basically right now looking at the degradation kinetics over time at different pHs and seeing how much drug is coming out of the hydrogel and over what period of time it elutes. We have yet to go into animal models. We're getting there very closely. This is what the hydrogel looks like. We have got very different iterations of it in different shapes right now, different sort of strengths, things like that, and how quickly it can dissolve. So we're still working all that out right now. We have yet to go into this phase where we still need to go into our sort of early phase animal models, but we'll need to go into IND-enabling studies. We have larger animal models looking at particularly safety toxicity studies. That's a larger capital investment, probably more than $2 million, to be honest with you. Probably about another 2 to 3 years of work that we'll need. Drug development, it takes a long time. So yeah. And mentoring. So where does that all fit in? I'm sure you guys have picked up that there's no way that I could be here today speaking to you about what I do if I didn't have people behind me that have allowed me to succeed. There's no such thing as a self-made successful person. I don't believe it. Please change my mind, but I've never seen it. And this goes doubly for successful clinician, scientist, entrepreneur. Impossible, all right? You need people in your corner who see more in you than you see in yourself. Basically what you showed in that one slide with the New England Journal. So that I think is, that forms the crux of, I think, of any successful person that will tell you a very similar story that I am telling you today about how they got to where they are today. The New England Journal of Medicine actually did a very nice sort of interviews with various leaders in the field, and asked questions about what does mentoring mean to you, and how do you effectively mentor people. And I'll just read some of these basically from some of these folks, but Ideally, people should start looking for a formal mentorship program when they're looking for a residency program. This is very true. I've said this to some of you guys already. Look for that program director that you want to learn from. The program director makes everything for that program. If residents are not happy with the director, they feel that they're left high and dry, the director doesn't engage with them, that's not the place where you need to be. You want to be people who are very invested in your success. Another person said that a good mentor is someone who says, how can I help you succeed, and truly wants you to succeed. A lot of people still think that a physician mentorship is hierarchical, but it isn't and shouldn't be. When a physician mentorship is well done for the right reasons, the mentor-mentee relationship is a partnership. I would actually say that it's more altruistic on a part of a mentor than really a partnership. I think it really is giving time, energy, not to get anything out of it. Literally to allow whatever you do as a physician, as an entrepreneur, as a scientist, to extend out beyond your time here on this planet, right? And that's why I actually love academia for that, because that is what you are trained to do. You are trained to inspire the next generation of people in what you do, so that the work can be carried on, right? It doesn't stop with you. It should never stop with you. And I think that's why mentoring is so important. Anyway, there's some other statements, but I think this one obviously resonates. Start by looking for physicians you admire for their expertise or their skill, or willing to give you good advice. Also look for people who you see as good people, right? As models for you would like to lead, and how you want to lead your life. That is very true, because some of the people that I showed you actually here, actually added more people. Some of these people, I looked at them and I'm like, I want to be like you someday. Right, and they've allowed me to do that, and in my own way. Like, don't be a clone, be your own person. But there are people in the way they behave, the way they carry themselves, the way they talk, the way they teach, the way they interact with patients. I mean, I got a lot of style, skills at interacting with my patients in a bedside manner by working with these people. But they also checked in. They want to know how I'm doing. They want me to be successful. From passing my boards to getting to my next step in life, like a new job or another fellowship program, people were really just sort of in my corner, and I knew that I could count on them for good advice. There were some studies also that show that mentorship, I had to put a study slide here, obviously, but less burnout among residents and trainees. This has been documented. Increased levels of professional behavior and increased teamwork and collaboration. It benefits everybody across the board. And then finding the right fit, open to exploring ideas with you. These mentors lets you make mistakes and encourages self-reflection, right? A good teacher. It's not hierarchical. It's not domineering. You don't have to ask them for permission. There's no secondary gain. This is really important. These people should not be benefiting from your work. They should be encouraging you to do the best that you can for yourself. And they may not also be in your field entirely. It's very hard to find somebody with my background to mentor me. That's okay. You can get good advice from a lot of different people. All right. So with that's it. Oh my goodness, that was the last slide. All right. Thank you guys. What kind of questions do you have? Yeah. Joel, sorry. I know I'll get to you. Yeah, sorry.
First, thank you so much for the talk,
Yeah.
Dr. Khagi. Always a pleasure just to kind of learn different things. In our position right now, as different years in the BAMD student program or just in medical school, what would you say are the biggest things that we need to take away moving forward from your own experiences, your regrets, your mistakes, and so forth?
Just don't worry about anything I said. And I really mean that. Just focus on your class. Focus on what's important. Take it one day at a time. This, even my title says, it's unapparent, and you don't know really what you're going to be exposed to. Just keep an open mind when you do. Don't necessarily sniff out those opportunities, but see them when they arise, okay, and act on it. In medical school in BAMD, when I did, it was hard. It was really hard. I didn't have these nice rooms that you guys have here. It didn't look as nice. But besides that, it was isolating for me. It was hard. I was away from my family. It was my first time being away. there was less of an emphasis on self-care and, mental health, which I think was, at least in my case, was a bit detrimental. I had to kind of like, rev my own engine and just try to get through it. And here, I think it's probably a lot better now, but from my personal experience, just push through. And when you get to the point where you need to make a decision about your residency, factor in those things that I said. Good program director, opportunities, the name matters. Depending on your goals, understand what your goals are. If your goals are like to go out in the community, to treat patients like in your community and just be the best doctor possible, I think UMKC gives you all the tools for that. Okay, absolutely, you're going to be successful. But if your goal is to kind of do what I did, be more of a clinician scientist, be an entrepreneur, you gotta do more things and you gotta go to places that have those opportunities, right? The only people that are going to give you opportunities are kind of like yourself. You got to be able to go there and put yourself in environments that allow things to happen. Like I said, engage with those people that you admire, that you want to be like, be in the same room as they are. Not necessarily have anything to contribute. You don't have to like raise your hand and say something. Just be there in the same room to learn from them. That's what I did at Dartmouth. It was amazing. I went to they have the Tuck School of Business, like number 2, number 3 in the country. I just sat in my classes. There were some scientists there. I just sat in some of their lab meetings. Just to learn. Right. I had nothing to contribute. Just wanted to learn. So yeah, just be open to learning after you leave. UMKC. UMKC will do a great job of giving you everything you need at the baseline to do very well in your chosen residency. Okay. What happens in residency, fellowship, it's a lot more open, and you kind of create what you want out of it. That's kind of what I did. Yeah. Yeah, you had a question.
Yeah, my name is Brandon. I'm a 5th year in the med program. First, I want to thank you for the presentation. It's very insightful. In fact, I think it's pretty similar to what I envisioned myself like going like down that similar route. So I had a question in terms of like, I was wondering because you seem like a very busy person. You're like a clinician, scientist, entrepreneur, but also a mentor and a father as well. How do you balance all of that in your daily life currently?
I have a very patient wife. The thing is, like, I can't be a dad without a great, like, counterpart, like my wife. And, she does a lot. And honestly, I can't even be as successful as I am if I still wanted to be a dad and have a normal, like, relationship with my kids if she wasn't in my life. It's a partnership for me with my wife, and just having that in your life will make all of this easier. Okay. The worst thing that I can envision happening is that I come home and number one, there's nobody there, and I'm alone. Right. That's not the life I want to have. Right. No matter how successful I am, being alone is like it's not worth it to me. So I knew I didn't want that. But coming home and having everyone just be sad, because like you just don't have the home life that you want. So she makes a lot of that possible. That sort of happy home. Even though she's a lawyer, she's like a hard-hitting lawyer. She went to Harvard Law School, and she actually turned down. She walked away from big law because she wanted to be more there for her family. She does academic law. She works for Tufts University as their associate general counsel. So she's very busy. But it's not the same kind of level of busy as a law firm. And she's not making $1 million what they would make at a law firm as a partner. She gave that up. I'm like, why? Why'd you do that? It's a joke. I'm glad that she did. So having a good partner makes it easier for me. And honestly, just, I don't know, like, this is fun. Like, what I do is fun. Like, my work, my seeing patients, I love seeing patients. Okay? I love science. I love talking science. I love talking to my collaborators. I love meetings, talking about new ideas and new experiments that we could do. And I love, like the pursuit of new venture is like being an entrepreneur. Like if you're not having fun in what you're doing, it is like you'd be miserable. I think if you're just doing this just to do it because you think you have to do it, that's not a good reason, and I think you're going to be miserable. But if you have fun along the way and actually enjoy what you do, I don't know, time doesn't matter. Like, I don't watch a lot of TV, to be honest with you. I don't even listen to much music anymore. Like, some of the times that I have to decompress is in my car when I'm driving to work. No music, it's absolute silence. Like, that is my time where I think and I reflect. And like, then I jump into, seeing patients, like absolute pandemonium every day when I'm in the clinic because some terrible thing is happening. And that's okay, I like that. But when I get back in my car, another 45 minutes to get back to my house, complete silence. That's kind of how I balance it. So you find time to do it. Yeah.
I'm Ananya. I'm a third year as well in Joel's class. Yes, it's nice to meet you as well. Your presentation was incredibly inspiring, and I always feel so inspired hearing from people who are passion driven as well. So that was really reassuring to hear and see. My question for you is a little bit more specific. So I know you said that going out of UMKC, you were very passionate about getting out of the Midwest. Is there a reason why you were passionate about getting out of the Midwest, and how did you navigate choosing that program for you?
Yeah. So I interviewed far and wide. I still have, it's funny. I have a little napkin from a Southwest flight, and they used to have a picture of the United States, and I put lines from Kansas City to where I interviewed, and I took a picture of that napkin. It's my only evidence of where I actually interviewed, so I didn't forget. But I went to UT Southwestern, Wake Forest, but Chicago programs, Mayo, a couple of Northeast programs. I can't remember the rest. I didn't necessarily say I hate the Midwest. There wasn't this need to absolutely leave the Midwest. It's funny because when I looked at colleges as right before I went to UMKC for the BA/MD program, I really actually wanted to go to a small liberal arts school in the Pennsylvania mountains, and it was very kind of Northeast feel to it, because I thought it was beautiful and I wanted to be in that kind of environment, and that always kind of just stuck with me. And when I interviewed at Dartmouth, it was this small town, this Ivy League beautiful college campus. The medical facility was absolutely gorgeous. It was huge, and it was surrounded by these the White Mountains and the forest, and it was still winter, but even in winter it was absolutely gorgeous. It was just snow everywhere. I just kind of fell in love with that. I fell in love with the idea of going to this place and just trying something new. It wasn't about me becoming an entrepreneur, to be honest with you. It wasn't about hating the Midwest. It was just it just felt right. And the program director there was phenomenal. His name's Harley Friedman. I actually showed a picture of him. He was so dedicated to his residents, to cultivating the best possible residents, to getting people to do their best. And that was very evident during my interview. People said that, multiple residents said that, how great of a program director he was. So I was this is great. I think this is where I want to go. Yeah, and that was my reason for it. Yeah, and it has helped me along the way too. They see Dartmouth, even though it's a small program. It's not like MGH. It's not Brigham. These are massive programs, 50 to 60 residents a year, per class. This was 15 residents a year per class. And everyone kind of knew each other. And I like that about that. But it still carried this interesting, the fact that it's an Ivy League, it carried that weight, even though it's a small program. It still carried that weight. It's cool. I like that. Yeah, it's helped me. Yeah. Any other questions? All right.
Well, no, I just want to say thank you so much for coming again. I learned 3 really big things just because I always debriefing is a really important thing, I think, in team science. And so I think 3 things I learned, I don't know what anyone else learned, was, education is a lifelong experience. The second thing is take pivots in your life if you're willing to, be introspective and take pivots. The last thing is mentorship may be altruistic, but maybe altruism requires mentorship. kind of seems like Dr. Khagi is one of the most altruistic people I know, and he mentors because it's life passion. So maybe that's the same for us. But thank you so much for coming, and yeah, maybe another round of applause.
Appreciate it. All right.
Maybe we could take a picture.
Yeah, I guess I can leave that up there. Yeah.